Hello everyone. Okay, this video is how to apply a per unit tax onto a simple supply and demand model. And I've used a problem off of an old test. So you can see it, let me get this out of the way. You can see it here, and this is from fall 2014 test. You're given this demand curve, supply curve, and the quantity supplied after the tax. So the first thing you have to do is simply figure out, like you've done 100 times before, what is the equilibrium quantity and price. You find the equilibrium price by applying its definition, which is quantity demanded equals quantity supplied, and then you just substitute what those things are. Here they are over here, quantity demanded and quantity supplied. The next thing to do is to add 200 to both sides, and then finally add 2p to both sides, and then divide through by 8. So 1800 divided by 8, I get an equilibrium price of 225. So that goes there, and it's also the first answer over here. The equilibrium price is 225. Then it asks for the equilibrium quantity. That's this thing down here. And what you need to do is apply its definition, and that is it's the quantity demanded or the quantity supplied, either one, at the equilibrium price. Just have to memorize that. So I'm going to do that by applying it to the demand function. Notice that when I apply it to the demand function, instead of writing the variable p, I'm going to write in the value of p, which is 225. And now my calculator can tell me what that is. 2 times 225 is this number, and I'm going to subtract that mess from 1600, and I get 1150. That's this number right here. On the test, that's the equilibrium quantity, 1150. Now for those of you who are nervous and think you might be messing up, you could have done this also by applying it to the supply equation. So you could have done it this way. Quantity supplied is equal to 6p minus 200, and then again applying the value of p, I get again 1150, so that must be right. So that's the kind of standard thing that you see on all the algebra problems. The next thing to do is to realize that when we put this tax on here, it's going to shift the supply curve back to the left, something like this. And this is the supply curve after the tax, and it's given on the test to be 6p minus 272. 6p minus 272. Now we just work it out the same as we did before. I'm going to cut off this video right here to save time, and you can work it out. Okay, I got that the equilibrium price is now moved to 234, and the equilibrium quantity has fallen to 1132. Now, this is the price that consumers pay, because when consumers go into the store, they have to pay the price of the product and, of course, the tax. So for them, after the tax, they pay 234. But what does the producer get? Well, the producer gets all this money, but the producer has to cough up the tax to the government. And how much is the tax? The tax, it turns out, is the vertical distance between the two curves. The tax is the vertical distance between the two curves. And since these two lines are parallel, you could figure the tax anywhere along the two curves. Anywhere. It turns out that one place is pretty easy to figure, and that's this place right here. This is the most important one, but they are all the same. It's just this one is easy to calculate. So the way we calculate it is, we know that the equilibrium price is 234 and the equilibrium quantity is 1134, and we can stick this number 1132. We can stick that number into the original supply equation right there, and that will give us the coordinates of this point. In particular, it'll give us this thing over here. Again, the way we do it is we take this equation, QS equals 6p minus 200, and we know the quantity supplied is 1132. I'm going to add 200 to both sides, which would give me 11, 12, 1300, and then I'm going to divide through by 6. I get 222. So this number down here is 222, and that's the price producers get after they have to pay the tax. They get $222. So those numbers go here. The price consumers pay is $234, and the price producers get is $222. Now the tax per unit is, of course, this vertical distance right here, but noticing that that vertical distance is the same everywhere, it's really easy to figure out what the vertical distance is right here. It's just the difference between 234 and 222. So 234 minus 222 gives me the unit tax of $12. So this distance right here is $12. Okay? And then it wants to know, what is the tax revenue generated? Well, the tax revenue generated is the $12 that the government gets on every one that's sold times the number of units sold. Now we got two numbers down here. Which one of these two numbers is the number sold? I hope you can see that it's this. This is how many units were sold before we put the tax on, but with the tax the price is slightly higher to consumers, and so they buy a little less. So the tax revenue generated is $12 times 1132, which gives me a number of 13,584. 13,584. This says neatly sketch out the supply and demand graph that represents your work. That's what I've done right here. Alright, that's what this is. And now this very difficult question. This very difficult question says, imagine that the tax were to double from $12 to $24. Would the tax revenue generated also double? Okay, we're going to double the tax from 12 to 24. Will the tax revenue double? You should turn off this video for a second and think about it. Okay, it turns out that no, it will not double, because what actually happens is, if we double the tax from 12, say, to 24, that would move the supply curve way up here somewhere, where this distance right here is 24 instead of 12. So it is true that the government's going to get twice as much money on every unit sold, but notice what happens to the number of units sold. They will no longer sell 1,132 units. They will sell way less. So when they double the tax revenue generated won't double. In fact, it looks like in the case I've drawn that the tax revenue generated would actually go down. Okay, so here I am. I hope you find that helpful, and you should be prepared for a question like that, at least an algebra question about supply and demand on the test, but maybe even a question very similar to the one I just worked. Alright, good luck.